a devoted fan, and a plugged-in reporter. There is no better way to talk about hoops than that. Mia O'Brien and Mitch Northam have you covered for the W, the NCAA, Unrivaled, and anything else that involves a ball and a backboard. This is the Women's Basketball Podcast.
Welcome into this week's The Women's Basketball Podcast. If you haven't heard our new open by now, isn't it fancy? Isn't it pretty? Thanks to our friends at AuditoryFX.com for making it. Make your podcast sound bigger and more professional with AuditoryFX.com. All the audio tools you need to take your show to the next level. Yes, I am a devoted fan. I think I'm a journalist sometimes, maybe Mitch.
Just double down on that one.
Yeah, exactly. I really am a diehard fan. We're not. I will tell you all this. We don't have Iowa on the rundown, but they'll probably show up at some point in time in tonight's broadcast. The perfect gift for yourself or the podcaster in your life is AuditoryFX.com. Packages for as low as $19.99. Visit AuditoryFX.com to make your podcast sound bigger and more professional, just like ours. He's Mitch Northam. I am Mia O'Brien. We are excited to dive into the biggest games this past week in the world of college basketball. Look ahead to WNBA CBA negotiations, maybe, possibly. We're recording this on November the 17th. I think no news is probably not good news, Mitch, but the good news is we do have a lot of great college basketball to talk about in the interim. What say you?
Indeed. Lots of very eventful games over the weekend. Nothing, no short of excitement here.
Especially some games that we may or may not have, put some making money with Mitch lines down on last week, and some games that we told you they'd go a certain way, and they very much did. So without further ado, let's hit this week's starting five, the 5 games that we got to talk about. And we begin with one that Mitch was on site for in West Virginia. We're leading with the Greenbrier 5. The T-shirts have already been printed. Mitch, is this story more about West Virginia and what they were able to do with 5 eligible players after a just before halftime skirmish between the two teams? Or is it about Duke losing another one so early in the season?
That's a good question. I think it's about both, which is kind of a cop-out answer to that question, but that's the direction I'm going to go. I was at this game in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, down at the Greenbrier, which is a resort. This game was played in a ballroom, and there are a lot of people I think are a little bit turned off by like MTEs and these big event games that are played in ballrooms. But this was like a pretty cool atmosphere, I thought, and like very well done in terms of like the construction and the ambiance and just the atmosphere. It was sold out, so it was a small space, but there was like, 1,200 fans or whatever packed in there. A lot of them West Virginia fans, as you might imagine. But yeah, I thought it was really well done by the people who organized this game. On to the game action. I have never seen anything like this before in my entire career covering college basketball.
Set the scene for those who may have missed this. Outside of the final score, West Virginia 57, Duke 49. Although I think at this point, most women's basketball fans, they know what happened, but maybe they don't know the details of what happened.
So yeah, in case you missed it, just before halftime, Duke is up 23-20. West Virginia's Jordan Harrison, probably the best player on their team, goes to kind of fire up a shot just at the buzzer. It gets blocked by Duke's Jordan Wood, who lets out one of those "let's go" yells right in Jordan Harrison's face. Jordan Harrison takes offense to this and shoves Jordan Wood. Jordan Wood shoves back. More shoves ensue, and West Virginia's bench empties. And if you're familiar with the rules, you cannot come off the bench when there is an on-court altercation. And so there's this long halftime like deliberation between the referees. They're watching the film back. They're trying to figure out what happened and who they need to toss and who gets flagrants and the whole thing. So Jordan Wood gets tossed for Duke. Jordan Harrison gets tossed for West Virginia. Both got flagrant 2s for fighting. And then 5 West Virginia bench players also got tossed, leaving the Mountaineers with a total of 5 players for the entire second half. And these 5 players, one of them was a starter, Sydney Shaw. The other reserves who were out there on the floor with Sydney Shaw were a transfer from Butler, a transfer from Texas Tech, a fifth-year guard who really hadn't played all that much. I don't think had ever really started many games. And then CC Riviere, who is a senior junior college transfer who had never played more than 20 minutes against a Power 4 opponent in 2 seasons at West Virginia. Going up against Duke, who had Toby Fournier, reigning ACC Rookie of the Year, and McDonald's All-American. After McDonald's All-American, when you talk about Riley Nelson and Ariana Robertson and
Emily Skinner did play in this game.
Yes, Emily Skinner. Who else am I thinking? Jaden Donovan. So the Duke roster is just stacked. You got all these McDonald's All-Americans, all these highly talented recruits. And to be quite honest with you, I think we talk sometimes about like how we just want to talk about women's sports like we talk about men's sports. So I'm going to borrow a phrase from Tony Kornheiser here. Duke laid down like dogs and they quit. They choked like dogs.
Wow.
It was bad. I don't really have another explanation. Like they quit. And West Virginia wanted it more is the only explanation I can come up with. I think Duke went 8 of 22 on layups. So like just blew a bunch of shots. West Virginia sat in this 2-3 zone and dared Duke to do something about it. And Duke did nothing. There were no adjustments made. There was nothing. West Virginia, like if you just look at on paper, like the rosters I read to you, what West Virginia had on the court and what Duke had on the court, you would take Duke to win by double digits every time. That this team couldn't just buckle down and get this done was astonishing to me. Just the way that they were just so incompetent that they couldn't beat a West Virginia team that had 5 players available.
It's more about Duke is the point you're getting at. This is more about Duke.
I think so. I do think it is. It did show me something about West Virginia. Like, I think West Virginia is a lot better than we thought. I think Mark Kellogg is a hell of a coach to be able to get that done. To come out there with that game plan and to put that lineup together and to say, we're going to sit in this zone. And then with, I think, 5 minutes left, CC Riviere gets her 4th foul. So then they have to move her to a different spot in the zone to kind of take her out of the paint. And they basically have a guard as the center in the 2-3 zone. And it worked. And he outcoached Kara Lawson, like full stop. Outcoached Kara Lawson.
So to that point, because I was texting with some folks over the weekend, some of our listeners, casual basketball fans who saw this storyline and said, my goodness, this is now going to be the storyline going into Kara Lawson's tenure as the head coach of Team USA. And I said, when you couple it with the loss to Baylor and all the jokes surrounding that opening day loss about, oh my goodness, Duke is the Iowa football of women's basketball. They are setting the sport back because they refuse to play a modern offense. Yes, the excuses are being built in already. If you don't see Caitlin Clark dropping 30 plus per game and you don't see that offense coming together in the early goings of their time together. But in the same vein, I would like to think that the caliber of players that Kara Lawson will have at her disposal for Team USA will be even higher than that of all the All-Americans she has on this roster. But I don't know, because to your point, it's littered with McDonald's All-Americans.
Yeah. The vibes are not good around Duke right now. Not to mention, like, a little inside baseball here. Kara Lawson is now on her 3rd sports information director in her tenure, which
file that one away, folks. Just
so
file it away.
The vibes are just not good around Duke right now. I kind of got a chuckle and laughed and put this out on social media when it happened. We're sitting in the media workroom waiting for the press conferences to start after the game, and one of the staffers comes in and says, yeah, for Duke, it's just going to be coach. Yes, it is, because that's par for the course after embarrassing losses in the Kara era. West Virginia handled hard better. Yes, they did. For West Virginia, I was just like, okay, this team is better than I thought. The Big 12 overall is better than I thought. Mark Kellogg is better than I thought. I think they're a team that, like, we need to keep an eye on. They're in the top 25 this week. And Duke, like, they just have a lot of things to figure out, because the Baylor loss I could forgive because you didn't have Emily Skinner and Ariana Robertson. Both of them played in this game. And afterwards, Kara basically said the only players that she thought gave effort and played well in this game were Taina Mayer and Ariana Robertson. So like she did her part in calling out her players, and they did bounce back, and they got a win at Liberty on Sunday. But they have a lot of really tough games coming up. They're going to go out to this MTE in Las Vegas and play against South Carolina, and then either Texas or UCLA. Oh, and then they got LSU at home in the first week of December. So if they got to get some things together and really figure it out, if they don't want to get embarrassed again, because that is like one of the most just shocking and embarrassing losses I've ever seen the Triangle women's basketball team take.
John Rothstein says that the West Virginia men's basketball team is tougher than a weekend at your in-laws. I would say they are more than just JJ Quinterly. They are tougher than a weekend at your in-laws and then some, because they did hard better. Again, final score, West Virginia 57, Duke 49, as the Mountaineers have now made their season debut in the AP Top 25 poll. And to Mitch's point, yes, I do think that today's program will have a bit of a Big 12 flair to it. But this next game did not feature two teams from the Big 12. It did, in fact, feature a team, though, that we told you in March. We told you in February that they would fall off the map. And while we don't want to dance on the grave of Niele Ivey and Hannah Hidalgo, because Hannah Hidalgo did set records this week, folks. She is the ACC Player of the Week. But in the same vein, we tried to tell you last week, did we not, Mitch? Final score, Michigan 93, Notre Dame 54. And listen, I saw all of you in my mentions and texting me about, oh my goodness, look at Hannah Hidalgo. Look at the 44 points, the 16 steals. Hey, even in the loss to Michigan, she still had double digits. Okay, she had 12 points. She was 4 of 21 from the floor.
Double digits, sure.
I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to win in the ACC, let alone against one of the better teams in the Big Ten, when you have one bona fide player in your rotation. That's with all due respect to the transfers they brought in, with all due respect to Hannah Hidalgo's BFF, Cassandra Prosper. This is not a surprise to either of us to see the Fighting Irish go down without a fight. Against the Wolverines, a team that had that fantastic trio of freshmen from a season ago. And all three of them also scored in double figures in this game. Olivia Olson, 20 points, 7 of 17 from the floor. But all three of them flirted with double doubles, if not triple doubles. They've got some firepower up there in Ann Arbor. I like what they're cooking, but coupled with Notre Dame is not built to sustain the long term, with Hannah Hidalgo going meteoric. And oh my goodness, she can drop 40 something. It's Kobe. This is great. She's one player. And it's November 17th as we record this podcast. Our prediction is already coming to reality and to the forefront, Mitch.
Yeah. The other, what I would point out about Michigan is, they had 6 players score off their bench. Notre Dame had 1 bench player scored, which goes back to the point that I was making about this game, is Notre Dame has the better player. Michigan is the better team. And we saw that. I thought it was also interesting how much this line moved. When we picked this game last Monday, it was Notre Dame by 7.5.
People didn't know. They didn't listen to the pod.
By the time tip-off came, Michigan was favored by 4.5. And obviously covered with flying colors. But
they won by almost 40.
This is what happens when you play another really good power conference team. This is what is going to happen to this Notre Dame team when they play other elite teams. I think that USC is going to do a similar thing to them when they come to South Bend next weekend.
Ole Miss?
Ole Miss is going to be interesting. This is what this Notre Dame team is. They are going to ride or die with Hannah Hidalgo, and there are going to be some teams that are just going to say, no, we're not going to let Hannah beat us. We're going to make everybody else on Notre Dame beat us. And I'm not sure they're capable of that. I'm not sure that Cassandra Prosper, KK Bransford, Vanessa DeJesus, Gisela Sanchez, Malaya Cowles, Ayana Moore. Like, are they capable of coming together to beat a Power 4 team or a team in the ACC? Now, the good news for Notre Dame is this. I don't know how good the ACC actually is this year.
True.
I just saw Virginia lose to UMBC at home. Pitt lost to a Division III school.
Shout out Scranton, baby. More than just the Michael Scott Paper Company and Dunder Mifflin.
Georgia Tech just lost to Jacksonville.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. Don't you worry. I'm calling their game on Saturday against FIU. Look out, Panthers. Sorry, producer Dimitri.
So, there's going to be some gimmies there in the ACC, I think. Now, I'm not sure that they're capable of competing in the top half of the ACC, which is what we've kind of been warning folks about all season. I just want to point out another Hannah Hidalgo stat. So as a freshman and sophomore, her usage percentage was 31.5%. This year, it is 41%, which is second in the nation. So that tells you how much Notre Dame relies on her. And yeah, she can go out and get 44 and 16 steals against Akron or Sisters of the Poor or School for the Blind and Deaf. But when you play against Michigan or UConn or USC, Godspeed.
She is the nation's leading scorer, thanks to that 44-point performance against, I forget if it was Sister Mary of the Poor or Northwest Missouri State. Sorry, Akron. Sorry. But yeah, 28.8 points per game for Hannah Hidalgo. But as we saw with Tanaya Latson a season ago, that's great to be the nation's leading scorer. All it's going to do is potentially make you a hotter item on the transfer market. Let's keep it moving because you covered not one, not two, but 3 games this weekend up in the West Virginia area. Man, oh man, Mitch, I don't know if anybody has ever covered 3 women's basketball games in the span of 3 days in West Virginia. I'm excited to hear about game 2 of this 3-day experience.
Yeah, it was a fun drive.
Let's just say the third game was in Asheville, North Carolina. So
it was. Cullowhee. But yes, near that part of the state. But yeah, it was a fun 3 days driving through Appalachia. But yeah, game 2 was Kentucky at Marshall. And I think Marshall is actually like going to be pretty decent this year. I think like they're going to be a team that can compete for the Sun Belt title. They gave Indiana a good fight a week or so ago. But Kentucky just came in and kind of blew the doors off of them after the first quarter. They win 76-44. My big takeaway was I'm not sure if there's I don't know any other team in the country that is as long as Kentucky. So like they have Clara Strack, SEC Defensive Player of the Year, playing center. But then around her, they have 2 other players who would probably be playing center at most other schools in Amelia Hassett and Tiani Key, both of whom are 6'4". Clara Strack is about 6'6". I think Clara Strack, do I want to go down this route? I don't know if she's better than Elizabeth Kitley.
Oh,
she's really, I think, grown her offensive game, and I think is kind of like Elizabeth Kitley 2.0. Okay. There were a couple possessions where like she just kind of set up on the elbow and like was in a catch and shoot ready position, gets the ball, I mean flushes it every time she shoots from the elbow. Just like has some increased range and is getting better. So Kentucky has like all this length, which makes it hard for passing lanes, and like they're able to cut off things, and they're able to just be really disruptive on defense that way. But also on offense, I think it helps them just kind of like space things out, and they can go in and pack the paint, but also Hassett and Key can also hit 3-pointers. So it's like, then they have Tony Morgan playing point guard this year, transfer from Georgia Tech, who at Georgia Tech, I think was more of like a scoring guard, but really has kind of transformed into like a pass first. Oh, wait, I have all these 3 like really good, post players around me. Plus I have Jordan Obi, transfer from Penn, who's doing really well for them. So she had 16 assists in one game, and then she had 11 assists against Marshall. So that's really, really good. I think like, Kenny Brooks is not trying to make her be Georgia Amore. You can't do that. Georgia Amore is kind of one-on-one.
Yep.
But like in terms of finding the right person to run this offense, I think Tony Morgan is that. And they have a lot of really good size and like really good depth down in the paint. And I'm really interested to see like how good they can be in the SEC this year against like South Carolina is a team that Kentucky is actually probably bigger than.
Yeah.
They
got guards in Columbia, as a wise producer once said.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm high on Kentucky. I think they got something there. Yeah.
All right. And you know what? Shout out Liz Kitley as well, who made her broadcasting debut up in Blacksburg over the weekend. So hopefully she doesn't come for our job after making that comp. But look, it's the Earth theory. There's not many humans walking around 6'6", 6'7", especially female humans, that have the ability to shoot from within a 8-foot diameter of a basketball, let alone stepping out even beyond that. And that's where I think the Kentucky dynamic is going to be interesting, because if they can just bully people in the paint, simple as that. And if they can also make shots, forget about it. It's game over. And especially in an SEC that, while there is great shooting across the board, even look at LSU outside of Kate Koval, I really don't know the size situation in Baton Rouge as well, because they are also headlined by their trio of guards. That is number 3 in this week's starting 5. Let's get to number 4. The real USC stood up, and the final score, South Carolina, that USC 69, nice, and University of Southern California 52. Not so much a surprise when you look at that final score, Mitch, from the perspective of, I think in terms of, quite frankly, experience in big games, South Carolina has more comparatively to USC, that of Southern California. At the same time, you tell me, what are your thoughts in terms of the ceiling for those two teams, especially coupled with the fact that you got a lot of flack in your AP ballot today that you did not have UConn number 1, and you still have South Carolina hovering around that, top 2 spot.
Yeah, I mean, so let me address the AP poll first. I tried to explain this to people. Number 1, we're week 2. Like, everybody just simmer down. This is based on what we have seen so far in the games that have been played. And I think South Carolina has more impressive wins right now than UConn, because South Carolina just went in to LA and beat USC by double figures, a USC team.
Or not even at the Galen Center, at the Crypto Arena, Crypto.com Arena.
And USC is a team that beat NC State. UConn has beaten Louisville. That's a solid win. And they've beaten Florida State. And that's an okay win, I guess. But like I haven't really been impressed by like, oh wow, UConn blew that team out. UCLA, on the other hand, has beaten Oklahoma comfortably and North Carolina comfortably. So that's why I have South Carolina and UCLA both ahead of UConn. Do I think that UConn can win the national championship? Of course I do. They have Sarah Strong and AZ Fudd and all these other players.
But you also think South Carolina could win the national championship with a performance like what they had on Saturday, excuse me.
I do think like there's potential for that. Again, those 3 guards are really, really good and really, really experienced and have played in big games. And I mean, you saw it in this one: 14 points from Tessa Johnson, 12 points from Tania Latson, 14 points and 11 rebounds and 4 assists from Raven Johnson. And then Joyce Edwards going out and getting her double-double and 4 assists and doing what she does. So South Carolina's lack of depth worries me a little bit. But at the very top, if those 3 guards are clicking, and if Joyce Edwards or Medina Okote, if one of them is doing their thing and being dominant in the paint, they're going to be fine. USC, on the other hand, I don't think USC is a Final Four team this year. Do I think they can make another deep NCAA tournament run to the Elite Eight? Certainly.
That's my point, is I think that Jazzy Henderson's playing her 3rd ever college game. And I know she bursts onto the scene against NC State, but ultimately her being held 4 of 11 for 8 points, she's 18 years old. I'm not surprised going up against that trio of guards that this was the outcome. But I'm curious if that would be the outcome in March. That's where I think there might be a little bit more resistance, especially on home court.
Yeah, I think by the time we get to the end of the season, we're going to see Jazzy Davidson grow quite a bit and Kennedy Smith grow quite a bit. And they have some other veterans on this team like Cara Dunn and London Jones who are going to kind of help steer the ship a little bit, I think. I think USC is still going to be probably a top 5 team in the Big Ten, and certainly capable of, getting to the second weekend of the tournament, capable of getting a top 16 and hosting games in the opening weekend. But yeah, I'm not sure. It'd be pretty hard for me to see them as a Final Four team at this point, just based on how they've performed in this game against a team that I think is a lock to go to the Final Four.
Let's round out this week's starting five, and let's round out Mitch's road trip through Appalachia. And if I die in Raleigh, no, you made it all the way past Asheville and then some.
I did. So yeah, on Sunday, I went to Cullowhee, North Carolina, where Oklahoma, for some reason, was playing at Western
Did we
Carolina.
ever figure out why? Like, is there a player that is from Carolina on Oklahoma's roster or no? Like, just wanted to go hang out in the breweries.
Best I could tell is that this was just a regular home and home. I think Jenny Bronsick is, friendly with the Western Carolina coach, Jonathan, whose last name escapes me at the moment, but he's been around a while. And it sounds like from talking to her yesterday that they had initially planned on playing sort of some other games in the area. I don't know if they were going to do some non-con thing in Charlotte or maybe up in Knoxville. I don't know. But this is how it happened. It was just, this one-off game at Western Carolina. But Oklahoma wins handedly 95-32. My big kind of takeaway from this was, man, Aaliyah Chavez is really fun to watch. She has, I think the big takeaway was that she has the keys to the Oklahoma offense, and it seems like Jenny Baranczyk really, really trusts her to run this team that has, these veterans and Reagan Beers and Peyton Verhulst and Sahara Williams. So that kind of jumped off the page to me, just the way that Aaliyah would kind of get the ball, and sometimes she would dribble up and kind of pull a Caitlin Clark and just pull up from a couple feet beyond the three. And then sometimes they would run an actual set and she would throw this neck breaking assist into Reagan Beers. It was just fun to watch. She was all over the court running around and, didn't take the opponent lightly, which was good to see out of a freshman. I think she ended up piling up, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. You had a double-double from Reagan Beers, and that's a good day at the office for the Sooners. I think a lot of people were maybe down on Aaliyah Chavez after the way she played against UCLA, but that's her first big game of her career. I think she, in these past couple games that Oklahoma has played since, she's kind of gotten a little bit more comfortable sort of being the bus driver for the Sooners. I think their ceiling is pretty high if she continues to play at this level and continues to raise her level and develop over the season.
Are they going to fulfill her prophecy of making it to the Elite Eight?
Maybe. I think it's possible. I think they can get there.
Where do they rank in the SEC right now? I know it's week 2 of the college basketball season. I've got Purdue fans yelling at me in my mentions again, even though I ranked them number 1 in the men's poll. It's too early to say, I know. But ultimately, with what you've seen from South Carolina, LSU, how high you are on Kentucky, this idea of could Texas still be lurking, where do you say Oklahoma falls in that hierarchy?
Yeah, it's such a deep league. South Carolina 1. LSU 2. I guess I would put Texas 3, but I would like to be more impressed by Texas. I'd probably have Kentucky and Oklahoma as your 4-5 there.
So they're in the top 5, same as USC and the Big Ten.
And then we could talk about Ole Miss, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. Yeah, I think that's right.
I like it. It. That's how we're starting in the SEC, and that's how we're starting today's program with today's starting 5. As for the main entree, which I realized that we left out, where's the beef? So you may be asking, where is the beef? What is the beef? I think our notes on Hannah Hidalgo are enough of beef, as well as the fight at Greenbrier, which is still kind of like a wild.
That was the beef.
Yeah, that is the beef. So what's the beef? The Greenbrier 5, and also this podcast and our prediction that Notre Dame could not sustain off of just the play of one player, even if she is a candidate.
Beef.
Look at that. I love it. Greenbrier 5, you are this week's beef. God bless you. You transfers from JUCO, from far and wide, who came to West Virginia and said, you know what? By golly, in the name of JJ Quinterly, we will find a way to defeat Kara Lawson's Duke. They did, and now they have a story forever. And that's why I love the shirts and the graphics. So that is this week's What's the Beef. And it was also this week's number one item in the starting five, because I think both sides and both stories are certainly one of the biggest storylines in women's basketball through the first month of the season. But this week's main entree, last week we did players who were high on, who we would say we're buying stock in, Mitch. This week, because we do want to give you guys kind of a primer ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. By the way, you made a comment about the Greenbrier Ballroom. As soon as I see basketball being played in a ballroom, I feel like Thanksgiving is near. And so with multi-team events, MTEs coming to the forefront this weekend, we wanted to give you guys 3 teams each that we will be keeping an eye on this week that we've been impressed by, and we think you will be as well. So, Mitch, start us off. Who are your 3 teams that you will be following here for the next calendar week?
This is where, after you mentioned Thanksgiving games, I would normally dunk on Flow Hoops, but Flow Hoops, I need a job, so holler.
0 to Baller TV. Baller TV, if you're out there.
Baller TV, holler at your boy.
Mitch is looking at you too.
Stock up. We're gonna stick with my theme of the Big 12 is better than we thought, y'all. So NC State, they play in Reynolds Coliseum, by far my favorite venue for a basketball game in the Triangle. They had not lost at home by double figures in Reynolds Coliseum in nearly 2 seasons. That changed on Sunday when TCU went in there and won 69-59, which was also Olivia Miles' first win in 3 tries at Reynolds Coliseum. She had 15 points, 14 rebounds. Marta Suarez just killed NC State. She had 26 points, 4 of 8 from 3. TCU, again, is a team where I really like kind of like their top 7. And I think that they're going to be a team that we're going to talk about deep into March next season. Or this season, I mean, this coming March. Getting my Marches mixed up. I just think that TCU has the goods. They got Olivia Miles running the things from the point guard spot. They got Marta Suarez, who is an absolute sniper. Clara Silva getting a double-double against a player like Tilda Trigger, who, Tilda has been a starter for, a year and a half. Clara, this is really her first season starting. Plays 32 minutes, gets 11 points, 12 rebounds, 2 blocks, really big inside for the Horned Frogs. So TCU is a team that I really have my eye on, and somebody I moved up quite a bit in the AP poll, my AP ballot this week, just because I think it's super impressive when a team can go into Reynolds Coliseum and get a win by double digits. The last team that did that was Kenny Brooks's Virginia Tech. Second mention on this podcast for Elizabeth Kitley. That was an Elizabeth Kitley, Georgia Amore team.
I was going to say, shout out Georgia Amore too.
Yeah. That was, them coming off of a Final Four and them well on their way to winning the ACC regular season title before this Kitley's injury kind of ended all that in 2024. But yeah, TCU, super impressive, super impressed by them these first couple games of the season. Mark Campbell has it cooking again.
And what's funny, and we'll just go back and forth with our 3 teams. So you're leading off with TCU. I'm going to call an audible. I'm going to go to a Big 12 team as well. I've got Baylor. And Baylor not only with impressive victories, although maybe that Duke victory doesn't look quite as impressive in light of what Duke did against the Greenbrier 5, but certainly against UNLV, they were pushed, they were pressed, a 62-54 win over a team that's probably one of the favorites in the Mountain West. I think that, again, there are flaws, to be clear. Do I think they're the number 7 team in the country? I'm not so sure, especially with Duke falling out of the polls. But again, I can tell you this. I've seen Talia Scott play enough basketball to tell you that when she's locked in and when she goes off, good luck. Much like Hannah Hidalgo, just the difference being that I do think that Talia Scott's got a little bit more help out in Waco. And I think in turn, that is where this Baylor team has a higher ceiling. They will face Iowa this week. Iowa is once again top 10 in the country in scoring. I'm curious to see if the Bears are able to slow down the Hawkeyes. I told you there'd be an Iowa reference in there somewhere, Mitch.
I don't think I realized. I guess I didn't look at the full AP poll during my drive home today. Baylor's number 7. That seems wild to me.
Yep. Little high, but hey, listen, if they take down Iowa this week, then, we could have a conversation.
Yeah, I think Baylor's good. I just don't know that they're number 7 good. But yeah.
Actually, Duke's going to fall out of the poll.
Yeah, Duke did fall out of the poll. Yeah, Talia Scott, Dariana Little-Page Buggs, Belafonte Leroy, all in double figures in scoring this season. Good team. Baylor's got a good team.
Baylor has a good team. So does the team a little bit north of them in Stillwater.
Yeah. So yeah, Oklahoma State this season is off to a 5-0 start. They kind of played a flurry of home games right off the bat to start the season. And they haven't played anybody all that super impressive yet, but they are 5-0, and I think might have one of the most efficient offenses in the nation. They're top 5 nationally in assists per game, total 3-pointers made, effective field goal percentage, points per play, points per scoring attempt, and points per 100 possessions. We've talked a lot about some of the players on that team,
specifically one.
Yeah, you got your Lena Girardis, you got your Haley Sturds, you got who am I missing? Haley Timmer, Micah Gray, Staley Hurd. I think I mispronounced her name earlier. Haley Timmer, Amari Whiting, but I think Staley Hurd really is like the bus driver of this team, like kind of from a point forward position. And then you just have all these shooters around.
Right. I was going to say, they just got a ton of guards.
Yeah. And one of them is Nina Girardi, who I think we talked about last week, daughter of
and the week before,
former New York Yankees manager, Joe Girardi. He was also like an all-star, like at some point, and like, pretty good player. Yeah.
He was a Phillies manager too, but no one talks about those times.
Yeah. I just always think of him as a coach first, and like, also he was a player. Anyways, yeah, she's a shooter. She's got the goods. I think Oklahoma State in general has the goods. They are going to play kind of their first, I would say, tough game of the season so far this week against St. John's in Queens. We will talk about that on Making Money with Mitch.
So far of our teams we want you to watch this week, teams we are buying, we've got 3 outfits from the Big 12, which is ironic considering if you remember our preview episode, we had questions about the Big 12. Would we care about the Big 12? 2 weeks into the women's college basketball season, we care a whole heck of a lot about the Big 12. I'll throw one more at you, although it's only a half vote, Mitch, and that is the winner between this Wednesday night's game between Kansas and Minnesota. I put the winner of this game because both teams intrigue me. Kansas is coming off of a victory over Mizzou, 82-77 at home in Lawrence, Kansas. And ultimately, look, like it's a rivalry game. Weird things happen. This is a Kansas team that's other 3 wins are over the University of Kansas City, Northwestern State, and Lamar. So not like they have a ton of marquee dubs on the schedule, so to speak. Minnesota is a different story. We'll get to them here in just a second. But point being, they think that they're getting Addie Bajorn, even though I think she's going to go to Iowa, but I could be wrong. So she also could go to Notre Dame, but I don't know why you'd go do that in light of
I'm gonna predict. I think she's going to Iowa too.
I do too. I think she's going to Iowa, but I digress. Point being, they think she may go to Kansas. Maybe Kansas has something brewing, and also the fact that the SEC got pressed by the Big 12 in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. So, so far of some of those interconference games has been interesting, and it's just something to file away. So note that of a couple of those meetings between those two power conferences. But I do think Minnesota is going to win this game on Wednesday night. This is a Minnesota team that has dubs over North Dakota, Manhattan, Marquette, and JIT so far. As of this writing, they are the number 1 defense in college basketball, allowing just 42.3 points per game. I know, level of competition, sure. Still, defensively, they have the goods. They are the number 12 scoring offense, averaging 92 points per game. We will learn a lot more about this Golden Gophers team, not just with this game on Wednesday night, but then they face USF and Samford in the next week and a half or so over the Thanksgiving holiday. Then they get Maryland on December 7th. I don't think I'm going to pick Minnesota to finish in the top 5 of the Big 10, but I am intrigued. I'm interested to see from the early returns so far in what the Gophers can do.
Your reigning WBIT champions, Minnesota Golden Gophers.
Also of note.
Kansas and Minnesota are 2 teams that kind of just looking at a little bit. That's going to be an interesting game. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Intrigued. Who is your third team you're keeping an eye on? I think you've been hinting at it all night long. Yes, there it is. There it is, folks. If you're watching on YouTube on the OG Triangle Media page, you see Mitch Northam pointing at his hat, which is a hat honoring the United States Naval Academy, who picked up their first win over a Power 4 outfit since 1998, their 5th overall, their first win over the SEC in 25 5+ years, Mitch.
Yeah, Tim Taylor and the midshipmen beat Florida 69 to 54. This was super impressive. I thought Navy had a chance in this game. Even if Florida had Liv McGill, we should mention Liv McGill did not play for Florida. But like, even if you don't have Liv McGill, let me just talk to the Florida perspective for a second. You were in the SEC. You were the Florida Gators. You should not be losing to the Navy midshipmen in women's basketball, much less by double digits. But you did do that. And so we're going to flip this and we were going to celebrate Navy. Navy has had some tough seasons under Tim Taylor, but last year I think started to see a real growth spurt and a real surge. The 3 service academies, like, they got to do things a whole lot differently than pretty much every other women's college basketball program in the country. Like, these are still places where you get players as freshmen and you develop them over 4 years. And then hopefully by the time they're juniors and seniors, you have good teams. And that's kind of what we're seeing with Navy. Their best player is Zanai Barnett-Gay, who is a junior guard. She's the preseason Patriot League Player of the Year. She had 22 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists in this game. But all around, like, Navy is just a well-rounded team, led by players who have been in the program a couple years now. And I think there is something to that, like, just having that continuity. Like, Navy can't take transfers. Players rarely leave Navy, especially after their sophomore seasons, because you sign, I believe, what's called a 2-for-7, where you're kind of locked in to, if you leave, you got to pay the Naval Academy back that money. There's no rev share, there's no NIL. So again, like, they got to do things a little bit differently. They got to build a different mousetrap. And to get this win over Florida, I think, is a real, like, proof of concept win that Navy is capable of winning the Patriot League this year and going back to the NCAA tournament for what I think would be the first time in probably a decade, maybe more. I think they went once or twice in the 2010s under the previous head coach. I would have to double check that. But it's been a while. But I think they have a legit team this year. They got a couple more games coming up. They're undefeated right now at 3-0. Beat Delaware, beat Longwood. This Sunday, they're going to play at Richmond. That's a big game. That is one that I actually might drive up for and check out. They also play at South Florida later in December before they really get into the thick of Patriot League play. So we're going to find out, like, for sure, like, how good this Navy team is. But, like, that game against Richmond is going to be really fun to watch, like, to kind of see Zanai Barnett-Gay and Maggie Dugan sort of go shot for shot if that's the situation they get into.
Don't forget the Patriot League also has Bucknell, who almost beat Penn State. Just filed that one away.
Bucknell. And Lehigh went to the tournament last year. Now, they got smacked by Duke when they went there, but,
Yeah, that's okay. Listen, the Patriot League, I'm not going to say it's going to be a multi-bid league, but I'm saying that, listen, it's not like you're going to be beating up on, I know there's no KenPom, but in the net rankings, like, it's not like you're going to be beating up on teams that are in, like, the 200s, so to speak, with the Patriot League.
I believe, Holy Cross also beat Boston College this year. So there's that. Patriot League, don't sleep on them.
Let's go mids. We're proud of the mids. Go Goats. Let's end with my third team that I want you to watch this week. We already talked about them. It's the University of Michigan. A couple more notes from their 93-54 victory over Notre Dame in the Shamrock Classic. Their largest win over a ranked opponent in program history. By the way, sorry, Notre Dame, to dance on your grave even further. Largest loss for the Fighting Irish since 2002 and largest loss to a ranked team in program history. Thank you, Alexa Philippou of ESPN, for that stat. But the truth is that Michigan is more than just this massive victory over a team that's probably, if not already, out of the AP and coaches poll. Will be out of it in about a week's time. This is a Michigan team that's going to play UConn on Friday. We're going to learn a whole lot more about them. Am I picking them to beat the Huskies? No. Do I think they will give them more of a game than Notre Dame gave them? Yes. I also think that when they play Syracuse on Sunday, that's a Syracuse team that's currently undefeated. I think that that's going to be another litmus test where if the Wolverines smack the Orange around, then we're going to look up at the Big Ten after 2.5 weeks' time and say, man, maybe Michigan is going to be pushing UCLA for that best team in the Big Ten title when all is said and done, because I just think that they have the depth and the experience. I know it's a 1-year sample size for that trio who are their headliners, but ultimately, Mitch, like with so much parity and so much change everywhere else in college basketball, if you could keep 3 of your starters who all scored in double figures a season ago, like you'd sign up for that every day and twice on Sunday, and you would believe in it as proof of concept.
Mm-hmm. Just because you mentioned the Syracuse game, I did want to just shout them out real quick. They are 4-0.
Yep.
And we're going to learn a lot about them in the next week because they play Utah, they play Michigan, then they play a pretty good Howard team, and then they play Auburn and SMU. So in the next week or two, we're going to learn a lot about Syracuse. That Michigan game is kind of interesting because it's a reunion game of sort for Layla Filia, who was a all Big Ten selection at Michigan, had a stop at Texas, and is now at Syracuse.
Again, all the movement. And that's why the fact that they were able to keep much of that nucleus together from last year, I hope they keep it again next year, because all 3 of those players are not draft eligible. So they will all be back. So to recap, our 3 teams that I want you to keep an eye on this week: Michigan, Baylor, and the winner of Kansas, Minnesota, probably Minnesota, Wednesday night. And Mitch's 3, TCU, Oklahoma State, and the United States Naval Academy. Mitch, I know it was anchors away, folks. I know it was a bit of a rough week last week for you, but you did go 3-0 in making money with Mitch. So
I did. That was a silver lining.
Let's take a victory lap for Mitch, who is 3-0 on the young college basketball season in his picks. I'm excited to see what this week's 3-pack looks like.
I also I did get some good news about my North Carolina book. I can't reveal any details yet, but I got good news about it. So
okay, so there we go.
2026 DVD.
All right, love that. Is North Carolina in this week's 3-pack?
No, they're not. Unfortunately, I did lose just a little bit of sprinkling of money on North Carolina on Saturday night because I thought that Fairfield was going to cover 10.5 against them, and the Stags did not. But that was not in our making money with Mitch picks, so it doesn't go against the official record. But yeah, we did go 3-0 last week. Belmont covering against Tennessee, UCLA covering North Carolina, and Michigan, we know what they did against Notre Dame. This week, we're starting off with JC Hoyt's Cowgirls, who I already talked about earlier. This is Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. I got Oklahoma State minus 11.5 at St. John's. Expect the 3-pointers to be flying in Queens. I think Oklahoma State is going to comfortably win this road game, their first of the year.
Love it. More Lena Girardi, more Cowgirls. That's an 11.5-point favorite at St. John's Wednesday night. Oh boy, are we going to dunk on Notre Dame even more?
You didn't want to dance on Notre Dame's grave, but I will.
You have been very quiet when it comes to Niele Ivy's Irish. So he was waiting for this moment, folks.
I told you so, and I'm going to keep telling you so. And the line that I'm currently seeing for the USC Notre Dame game, which is Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, is Notre Dame is favored by
no way
2.5
no way
against USC.
Why are we doing this?
I will take the Trojans to cover 2.5.
Mitch, I think you need to call every sports book. Like, you need to call every sports book in Las Vegas and nationally. Just be like, I will be your women's basketball line maker, because
I'm happy to do it. This line, like the Michigan game, is going to swing again, but this is what I'm seeing. 2.5. This is on Massey and a couple other sports books as well. So yeah, I would say that is free money.
Take the money, make the money with Mitch.
Yeah,
this last one is a fun one. It's a rivalry game. And even though Mitch is extremely high on Kentucky, it looks like the bettors in Las Vegas are not.
Yeah. This is Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern on the CW. Big time.
Home of the ACC.
That's right. This is Kentucky at Louisville. Louisville right now is favored by 3.5. I think they're like neck and neck with each other in the AP Top 25 poll at the moment. Like, they're both in the 20s-ish. Even though, let's see. Yeah, Kentucky is 20 and Louisville is 21. I have Kentucky ranked much, much higher than Louisville in my own ballot, but that's what the consensus is. So yeah, I'm taking Kentucky plus 3.5 at Louisville. I would say Kentucky money line. I think that they're going to win this game pretty comfortably, unless Louisville just gets like an all-time performance from Laura Ziegler. But I just think that Kentucky size is going to be a little bit too much for them to handle.
See, so all the Kentucky men's basketball fans that were beside themselves after Pat Kelsey pants them, it's okay. Because guess what? Your women's team, Kenny Brooks, is here to save the day. So is Mitch Northam. His picks for this week read as follows. Oklahoma State, an 11.5-point favorite at St. John's, the University of Southern California. Are they the real USC? Are they not? 2.5-point underdogs at Notre Dame. I guess it's in South Bend. We'll give them that. And then Kentucky, a 3.5-point road dog at Louisville. Mitch says, take the Trojans, take BBN, Big Blue Nation. Let's hit last call. Any storylines we may have missed throughout the duration of today's program, other news and notes from the world of women's basketball. You certainly laid out why you do not have UConn at number 1 in your ballot, Mitch, as an AP voter on the men's side. I respect it. I am here for it. It's very difficult, folks, to put these ballots together when you have 4 games to go off of, and many of these games are cupcakes, or at the very least, they are low mid-majors, if not Division III schools. One more Division III school plug is going to come here momentarily. I do think, though, that Sarah Strong has, I don't want to say already eclipsed Lauren Betts in the National Player of the Year race, but the numbers she is putting up are putting her name even further into the spotlight, even though we know she does not crave the spotlight. She's very quiet. She does not like doing interviews, but I do think she is becoming more of a household name than even she could have ever imagined.
I don't disagree with you. I think that Sarah Strong is probably your front runner to win the National Player of the Year award this year. I would say Lauren Betts is your close second. I'm going to point out to our folks who like to wager some dollars here. If you want to take a long shot kind of dark horse bet on the National Player of the Year award, you can bet on the Wooden Award winner at DraftKings. Audi Crooks is plus 6,000. Audi Crooks just had a game against Valpo where she scored 43 points in 20 minutes.
19 and a half to be exact.
Yes. She is very, 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 very good. I think she is somebody who can lead the nation in scoring. I think if there is a situation, I think Iowa State is going to be really good this year. We've talked a lot about the Big 12.
Addie Brown had a triple-double over the weekend, or double-double,
and haven't really mentioned Iowa State, but they could win this league. They could be a top 16 seed. If those things happen, Audi Crooks will be a big reason why. And I think she will kind of see her star rise a little bit. She's also just, some lovable. Of these National Player of the Year award stuff. Yeah. There is some narrative and some personality stuff to it. The voters are human too. Audi Crooks is very, very likable. And
as I point to Caitlin Clark, for those of you watching on YouTube. Yes.
Yeah.
There's value. There's value in being marketable, which she is. I actually thought about putting Iowa State in my 3 teams to watch, Mitch, but I ultimately did not because I didn't want to be hypocritical, to your point, and talk about, UConn hasn't played quite the level of competition that South Carolina or USC has, when Iowa State has played. Oh boy, don't go make me pull it up, but here we go. It has been a season in which they have started off 5-0. They have faced, told you, Division III team. They're actually D1 now. St. Thomas of Minnesota, Southern, Sacred Heart, Valpo, Norfolk State.
Yeah. So not the toughest competition for the Cyclones, but
all those games have been at Hilton Coliseum too. So
yes. But I think, if somebody wanted to take a little bit of, just looking for some value, in that betting space, I would look at that. Man, they're really not going to play a good team until they play Iowa on December 10th. Well, that'll give time for Audi Crooks to pad her stats a little bit before conference play starts. So,
and they're playing the Hawks at Hilton Coliseum. So, not even they have to go to Carver. So it's not even you could benefit from, they had to go on the road and beat Iowa. No, they'll be at home. So someone will have that narrative, and that's fine. Sarah Strong, by the way, 20.5 points per game, 8.8 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game, 3.2 steals per game, 2.5 blocks per game. All of those stats lead the Yukon Huskies. It's kind of looking like Asia Wilson when the Las Vegas Aces were at that breaking point where we wrote them off. They didn't write back, though, and they went on to win the WNBA title. By the way, speaking of the Aces, speaking of Asia Wilson, very proud of her. Went on Good Morning America, talked about her love for Bam Adebayo. We're speaking his name. Very proud that we can now talk about their relationship and how special that they are to each other. So shout out to Asia. Shout out to Bam. Proud of you guys. One of our favorite bits of content on this program. It lives on. I also mentioned Division III. I do want to reiterate once again, WTF Pitt. Because I'm very proud of Scranton because my parents do have a lake house not too far from there. And I had to pass through Scranton, Pennsylvania when I drove to Ithaca, New York for college every single time. So like, hey, listen, I consider Scranton like part of my lineage. So very proud. But in the same vein, that was not the ACC team that we had on the hot seat going into the season, Mitch. But yikes.
I will just say that I don't think Pitt has the money to fire Torrey Verdi in what would be, I think this is the third year of a 5-year contract for him. But boy, this is bad. This is not good. I don't know. Like, I would have to ask another coach about this. But like, how do you recruit after you lose? Like, how do you tell a recruit and look them in the eyes? You know, we're really trying to be competitive in the ACC when you just lost to Scranton. How does that work? I don't know. I don't know how you sell that.
Ask Mike Norvell. Ask Mike Norvell about that. Speaking of the ACC, after you lose to Jacksonville State, you just throw money at them. Like,
yeah,
that's how.
That's
not a good legacy.
Not a good week for the ACC.
Yeah.
When you got Pitt losing that game and then Virginia losing to UMBC.
Hey, and also Georgia Tech losing to the mighty JU Dolphins. Special Jennings walked into ASUN tip-off 3 weeks ago and literally walked in the door and starts pouting about the fact that they were picked 7th in the poll despite bringing 5 players back, even though that doesn't include their best player. We'll get to that here in just a second. And I just looked at her. I'm like, why are you yelling at me? Like, I didn't put you 7th. I'm your friend. But anyways,
Georgia Tech, yeah. I could forgive because that is year 1 of the Karen Blair era and a massive rebuilding project.
Yes.
Virginia, I have been told that they spent a lot of money on that roster. Like $1 million.
Well, it's the Serena Williams money. Let's call a spade here because folks, I will tell you this, Mitch, there are folks down here in Gainesville that while they are so fixated on Lane Kiffin, their next side quest is who is the Alexis Ohanian of the Florida Gator booster tree that they can say, hey, Steffi Sorensen, like, come on over here. Can you and your brother who's a chef, like, start throwing money at the women's basketball program? And so, yeah, no, it's going to start happening around the country if it hasn't already. And it has already happened in Charlottesville.
They spent a lot of money on that roster, probably top half of the ACC in terms of spending, maybe top 5 in the ACC in terms of spending just on the roster this year. And to have a result like that, to lose at home to UMBC, that tells me that like, you're probably not going to be an NCAA tournament team, which I've said before. If Virginia is not an NCAA tournament team this year, that is very, very bad news for Mox. I don't think she's going to get an extension. And next year will be the last year of her deal. So she will be heading into what would be a lame duck season. And there's a lot of investment and a lot of support there happening now, like after you got out of the Tina Thompson darkness. And the vibes were good. And like now it seems like they're being kind of wasted and mismanaged. And things are not good. It's not good. Not good in Virginia.
Yeah, for those back to the Georgia Tech of it all in the ACC, because the vibes are not great at Virginia. Georgia Tech, we give a pass after Nell Fortner left after what? How many years, Mitch? I forgot the exact number for Nell.
She was there 6 years.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was going to say 8, so I thought it was 8. But either way, point being, almost a decade. And so we give them a pass, much like we gave their football operation a pass when they moved away from the triple option and had to go through the arduous road that they did. I would equate it to that, especially when the rest of their roster was pillaged by many of the teams we've already mentioned on tonight's podcast. So we give you a little bit of a pass, but shout out to JU, Tatum Brown, who, only had 6 points in this game, but a lot of folks believe she could be not only the ASUN freshman of the year, but she could have a conversation for mid-major freshman of the year. Was held to just 2 of 8 shooting. So they did a good job in keying in on her. Had no answer for Priscilla Williams, a former top 20 recruit nationally, has played at Syracuse, USF, Oregon, now at JU for her second season, very well traveled, but shout out to Special Jennings and company for going up to the ATL and getting a dub with literally one player in double figures, and they come away with a 69-64 victory.
Shout out to the Dolphins.
Swoop or not swoop. Wow. Sorry. UNF get that too. Wow. I'm going to get flack for that. No, it's fins up. I'm calling the JU game on Saturday. I like instinctively, this is what happens when I work in the office at UNF.
Fins up.
Fins up. We got the fins up and then we got swoop.
Does JU have a rival that does like fins down?
No, they just have swoop.
Okay.
Which is UNF.
Okay.
But then they do fins up like when you shoot free throws.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. You lift your hands up in the air. Mitch, real quick before we go, I'm just curious your thoughts. I mentioned it off the top, so we might as well note it. The WNBA, the CBA negotiations, kind of any update that you've heard in various circles. I know ESPNW posted an article earlier this week, kind of what they're hearing, but it just kind of feels like a whole lot of ado about nothing right now.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'm hearing and seeing in the WNBA space is more people are signing up for this Project B. Jonquil Jones just announced that she's joining. Elena Beard went on Sarah Spain's podcast to talk all about it. And things seem not good for the W in terms of negotiations. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
The good news is that women's college basketball is alive and well, and we are here to document each and every game, team from C to shining C, because that's what the ACC is these days. That's what the Big Ten is. And that is what the Women's Basketball Podcast brings you each and every week. Until next week, he's Mitch. I'm Mia. Wait, Mitch, do you have anything you want to plug before we get on out of here? I forgot. Any other stories, any other games you're going to be hitting?
Not at the moment, but keep an eye on my Twitters and Instagrams and Blue Skies and all that. And, I'll post what I got.
And we're looking forward to that update regarding your book about the University of North Carolina women's basketball program. All right, here we go. He's Mitch. I'm Mia saying we will catch you next week.
Deuces.